So my master's was at Utrecht University, and I did a master's in artificial intelligence. I didn't particularly choose the Netherlands. Actually, a funny story, yeah. So I wanted to go to Canada because everybody was going to Canada. But every school in Canada rejected my application.
Well, now we're ready. Hi everyone, whoever is watching, wherever you're watching from, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, yeah, whatever it is. Currently I have here with me the one and only the one and only Feyisayo, and she's currently doing her PhD in the Netherlands. And the reason why we're having this interview is so she can share some of her experiences, how she came, the application process, and everything she mentioned. She's going to give us more details anyway, but she came here with master's first, then PhD. So she's going to share that transition and how her PhD program has been so far. So I think she's the best person to do an introduction for herself. So an intro about you, where you're from, and what you're currently doing in the Netherlands.
Hello everyone, my name is Feyisayo Olalere. I'm from Nigeria and I am currently doing my PhD in the Netherlands. I've been in the Netherlands for 3 years now. So yeah, I came in for my master's, which was a research program. So that was for 2 years. Then afterwards, I transitioned into my PhD and now I'm in the second year for my PhD.
Super nice. So I have a few questions I'll be asking Feyisayo here. These are questions I've gathered from asking people, what they would like to see in an interview like this. She already has an idea of the questions, so hopefully none of them will get her by surprise. But let's start. So you already mentioned that you did your master's here. So do you mind sharing a bit of why you chose Netherlands, what was your master's about, and probably what the application process was like? Or did you come through scholarship?
So my master's was at Utrecht University, and I did a master's in artificial intelligence. I didn't particularly choose the Netherlands. Actually, a funny story, yeah. So I wanted to go to Canada because everybody was going to Canada. But every school in Canada rejected my application, and yeah, I'm not smart. So when I was doing my search, I was particularly interested in doing AI as a program. I'd done computer science for my bachelor's and I didn't want to do a master's in computer science and then specialize in AI. So I was really looking out for schools that had artificial intelligence as a standalone program. Yeah, my dad sent the school to me actually, like all these find a scholarship emails. So he saw Utrecht University there and just forwarded it to me. And I applied and yeah, I got in. So in terms of what the application process was like, it was actually quite straightforward. So you'd have to go to the website, so the school's website, and then you have to create like a general account to apply to any school in the Netherlands. So you have a list of documents you have to apply to submit, yeah, that was it basically. So you had an application fee once you hand in like your bachelor's diploma, your transcript. Then you have like letters of recommendations that you also need. I didn't have to do an interview, so it was basically just submitting the right documents. Oh yeah, and you have to write a good motivation letter as well. Okay. So yeah, that was mostly what I did for the application
process. Did you come in through some of these scholarship opportunities I mentioned?
No, but for at least for Utrecht University, they had an excellent scholarship program, and there are other popular ones like OKP. So you could also get like scholarships that Nigerian students are privy to at home and come here with it. But Utrecht University themselves, they offer something called an excellent scholarship, and to get a scholarship, you have to prove that you were in the top 3% of your bachelor's graduating class.
And you were?
I was, but I missed the application deadline.
Okay.
So yeah, so things like that you have to look out for, because if you want to apply for a scholarship, then you have to apply before a certain deadline, which is not like the general deadline as well.
Interesting. This is the
Utrecht University.
Utrecht University.
Yeah.
That was where you did your master's. Yeah. And where do you currently do your PhD? Is this still also in Utrecht?
Let's just call it Utrecht. Like
Utrecht. Okay.
I think I'm saying it wrong.
I'm
but
sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrongly.
On the screen.
Yeah, basically. I will.
No, so now I do my PhD at Donda's Institute, which is with Radboud University in Nijmegen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. By the way, if you see me looking down, I'm just trying to look at my watch to ensure that the video hasn't stopped. Right. Everything is going right. Next question is, for your master's, why were you interested in doing a master's?
In the first
Was
place.
it just a way of pursuing or furthering
my
your... Okay.
No, so actually it wasn't necessarily a Japa story. For me, I think it's just the normal Nigerian mentality. First of all, that's when you do a bachelor's that you want to leave the country, so you do a master's. But also I wanted to do research. Like I actually was interested in learning more about AI because during my bachelor's I only had one course about artificial intelligence my final year, and it was something I was very much interested in and a field I wanted to work in as well. A master's was the next logical step to like a bridge to go into that field.
Oh, super nice. Talking about PhD now, you already finished your master's. What inspired you to do a PhD, and why didn't you go to Canada for that PhD? Why Netherlands?
Number one, just putting it out there because I feel like every time everybody here you're doing a PhD, like, you like book. No, I do not like school. I do not like exams. So just to say that, I did a research master's. So that was 2 years. You could do a practical master's, which is 1 year. So the difference between that and a research master's is that you're actually trained to do research. So you have a lot of reading of other people's paper. The kind of thesis you produce is something you could publish, that kind of a thing. So starting my master's, I was not sure if I was going to do a PhD, but I knew I wanted to do R&D, so research and development in company. I didn't want to be a software engineer per se. And some of the companies I had looked into, they had like a requirement like, you have a PhD, you have this and you have that. So Google and Microsoft, like if you want to work in their R&D and stuff. And that's not to say you cannot go in directly with masters. Some people do directly go in with masters. But a PhD also seemed like a logical step to me because even if I want to do R&D in industry still, after my PhD, at some later point in life, I still want to have like a foot in academia. So getting my PhD done now and out of the way just seemed like that was what I should be doing,
Great. And why not Canada?
Why not Canada? Because I already settled in the Netherlands. And as I said before, I do not like exams and stuff. So that's where the big difference comes in. With the PhD system outside of Europe or outside of the Netherlands, you actually are a student. So you have to take courses, you have to do exams and that. But in the Netherlands, you're considered a junior researcher. So you don't have to go to classes, you don't have to take exams. Like you're actually paid to do research for the university. And
maybe
that's
now I'm interested in doing a
PhD. So that's the thing. Like you're paid enough to be comfortable as a single person living in the Netherlands, but you're not paid enough as I would be paid if I were in the industry doing AI, for example. According to like the IND, so the government people, the immigration people, they also see you as someone who is working. So the visa you have also like indicates that you're doing like an independent research or something like that. So why I did not decide to change location was because I didn't want to go back to school. So
well, that makes sense. You already mentioned the application and the process for masters. Could you also mention how it is with the PhD, what the differences are? Are there scholarship for you to be paid? I don't know if that question makes sense, but what is the application process like for the PhD program?
Okay, so first of all, if you're going to apply for a PhD, you need patience. It was after I entered, I had like a statistic. So for like one PhD position, you have about 100 people applying for it. So you apply for it the same way you would apply for a job. But the thing is, I can only speak for the Netherlands, right? And for the Netherlands, usually or almost every time, you need to have done a research master's before a PhD. So I know in the UK you can go directly from your bachelor's to do a PhD because then you still have to take like courses for 1 or 2 years before you actually start research. But because they would pay you as a researcher, so they're also looking for the skill sets that you indeed can do research. So it's a prerequisite that you've done some research related masters, at least from my course, but from what I've heard from other people as well, you actually have to have a master's degree. To apply, you can find a lot of like directly on the school's website. There's also a website called Academic Transfer. So they'll tell you what the position is about, the kind of research you would be doing, and then you just like apply as you would apply for any other job. So a motivation or a cover letter, your CV, like your transcript and things like that. So with a PhD on like my master's, I actually had to do interviews. I think for me, I did 1 round, but I've heard like other people that did like 2, 3 rounds of interviews as well. They're just going to ask you about the position itself, and like, do you have the skills required to actually do this topic? Are you interested even in the topic that they are offering? Because they give you like a specific topic. So for example, I'm not doing just a PhD in AI. I'm doing a PhD in AI, but for a specific topic, that kind of thing. So that's what the application process was like. So I applied to a lot of schools, even the ones that I forgot that I applied for. And yeah, you get called for an interview or not, basically.
Interesting. For the interview, did you have to present anything?
Yeah. So first of all, you're going to present yourself and not
Okay.
like tell me about yourself, no, like an actual PowerPoint presentation of. It's like you're explaining your CV to them.
I'm Feyisayo and
Exactly. Give me a job, please.
I've
No.
done masters, and then the last slide is like, please give me a job.
I beg and they beg. No, yeah, so you actually have to, so they tell you what they expect from the interview themselves. So like they're inviting you for an interview. Maybe they expect you to present like your final thesis from your masters or things like that. So for me, I had to do like an introductory slide just to tell them this is where I'm from, this is what I do, this is what my thesis was about. Because as I said, they expect that you did a research master's, so your thesis is supposed to carry some weight. So they want to see like, how are you able to explain what you've done? Then you just have a normal conversation following up. I think one thing that was interesting for me was, so I did it during COVID, so it was online, and I remember I joined the Zoom call and it was like 4 or 5 people on my panel, so I was not expecting that number of people, so I was quite like taken aback. So it's really just a conversation around your skill set. So like, what can you do? They would ask you particular questions about the topic you're applying for as well. And I think a funny thing that happened for me was like this school I'm currently at, it was like one of the applications I made first, so I'd forgotten that I'd applied there. I'd forgotten what the topic was about, so they sent me the invite for the interview very late, so I had to like just scour the internet, like what was this thing that I even applied for in the first place. Then even if you don't, because I did a lot of my master's things on computer vision, and now I work in the audio field, so I had to like just even prepare for the interview, like because the general tools I can use, but not the kind of data they needed. And I remember I kept telling them during the interview, I've not worked in audio data, I'm just saying, but that's not, they're not looking for like they know you can learn these things, they just want that you have the background required to even learn the new things you want to learn. So the interview process was quite straightforward.
Okay, so that means anybody who wants to go through similar interviews, you would advise them to first be confident in what they know and show that interest in what they're offering.
Yeah, because they also want to say you're very excited. So even if you don't like to smile that they are like, oh, this is going to change the world. Yeah.
Are you trying to tell us you don't believe in what you're doing?
No, I firmly believe in what I'm doing.
Oh, great. So I think these are pretty helpful tips, especially with the masters and the PhD. One interesting question is the tuition fees. So you already mentioned that with the PhD, you are being paid to learn or to work, but with the masters, I don't know if you still remember what the fees are like.
For international students, I think for my masters, 1 year was about 20k euros. But that was for Utrecht University, I have to say. I know other schools where you pay like 10,000 euros or 14,000 euros. You can check like Wageningen University or Wageningen. Just put the spelling of the names of the places.
I'll type them on the screen.
So for Wageningen, I know that it's cheaper. You can check out like Groningen. You can check out Tilburg. So there are schools that are actually cheaper than Utrecht University or University of Amsterdam.
So you have plenty money. You went to Utrecht.
Yo, the Lord is my continuous source of funding, because the way the money came, it can only be God. That's just it. But yeah,
the tuition fees for PhD, there's nothing like that.
So at least to the best of my knowledge, disclaimer. And all my colleagues that I work with, I do know like some of my colleagues that are from China. The government does give scholarship for them to do a PhD. So technically, and the way the scholarship is that they are basically living off the scholarship. So it's the scholarship that is paying them like their monthly salary and things like that. So it's not a tuition based thing.
The scholarship is from the government. But in your case, it's the company that's paying you.
So they have
the
funding.
Organization. So the idea of scholarship is still salary.
Exactly. So it's not exactly tuition.
Applying for this PhD role though, did you have to pay any application fee? You mentioned an application fee for masters.
So for my masters I did pay an application fee. For a PhD, no.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing. Rich kid. My next question was going to be about the scholarship program in the masters and PhD. Nice, you already clarified that. What is this PhD program like? You mentioned that you don't go to classes.
You don't have to.
You don't have to go to class. With the PhD, everything is more like you're working on a full-time job, and then you can work remotely or go to the office. All right. With the masters, do you still remember how the classes was
Yeah, so it was quite intensive for my course. So for 1 year, I think you do courses to get 120 EC. So that's the credits you need to get to graduate. No, actually from 2 years, because then your thesis is also counted as one of them. So you just register for courses. I think at least for my school, it was you had the liberty to register for different courses. So not only from your department. If you're interested in taking courses from other departments as well, you could register. But you have to have like specific mandatory courses. It was a lot of work. I'm not even going to lie. A lot of classes. Then you can do an internship. So you also have like some credits for internship. Then after an internship, then you have to finish the course with a big thesis work.
Okay.
So that's then your final thesis that you would like go to present at the end of your master's, basically.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Coming back to the PhD though, how do you approach thesis or projects, or do you just work for the company and you have I'm calling them company organization? Yeah. Is it like you have deliverables, task, or how exactly does it work?
Okay, so my PhD is for a duration of 4 years, and so at the beginning we agreed on the topic. I don't know if I should just say topic, or can I go into what my topic is?
I don't know if you have. Okay. I don't know if you have the right to do that. I think just stay with topic.
Okay. Yeah. We have a topic that I'm working on. Let's just say I'm using AI to improve XYZ, which it's not very hidden, so I can say it.
To improve the world.
Yeah, I'm solving the word problem. I'm using AI to improve hearing for people that use cochlear implants, right? So that's my father. Well, anyways, that's like the overall topic of what I'm working on. But then you have to take small steps to get to these big goals, right? So we planned like, okay, in year 1, we're going to do this research. In year 2, we're going to do this research. Everything accumulating to the final topic that my thesis is about. So at the end of the day, the final book that I'm publishing is just a collection of the research I've done within these 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say a normal day is literally like, so okay, first the contract. So usually your contract is like 80% research, 10% teaching. So what that means is that you still have to contribute in some ways to the university. So okay.
Sorry, is this just for your own course, or is this how you believe universal, it is for? Okay.
At least because I also have colleagues that are not in my group, so yeah.
Okay.
So but I don't know about Crush University. So for my university, that's how it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So 80% research means that every day you have to do something for your research. Nobody is policing you. That's like the big flexibility about it, right? But in terms of contributing back to the university, so you could teach a course, you could be a teaching assistant to a course. You could supervise students, like bachelor students, master's students. Yeah, so they just want you to contribute in some ways back to the university. So that's like, should be 10% or 20% of your time, depending on your contract. Pretty much just working. And in terms of deliverables, I mean, you want to publish papers as well, because if you're doing good research, you want people to know about it. You just be working towards those things. And your deliverables, you can decide that. So you have meetings because you have supervisors, right? So you talk to your supervisors like, okay, well, in 3 months, I want to publish a paper. And like if you have weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, you just discuss the progress in what you're working on, basically.
Is this the same supervisor you have for 4 years, or does the for 4 years?
You're going to get very close. So pray very well that you have a good supervisor, because a lot of the time,
relationship.
If you don't have a good supervisor, it can mar your PhD entire process. Imagine you're stuck with somebody for 4 years. Like people quit because of bad supervisors as well.
I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, thanks for sharing all of that. I think even the whole idea of PhD program is quite, like, the first time I met you and we talked about it and you were like, you're making money. I'm like, you're here to do PhD. How are you making money?
I mean,
I think those are really interesting.
I wouldn't say making money, but okay.
Hey, let's be humble. Let's be humble. We're in front of the camera. But I think that's quite interesting with this whole idea of, you're writing a book. At the end of the day, is the book going to be in your name, or will your supervisor take more credit over it?
No. So generally with schools, they would tell you that you should publish at least 4 papers, because each year, so you have 4 years of your PhD, then those 4 papers become chapters in your thesis, right? And you're the first author, because then you're the one doing the work, but you have your supervisor's name on that. But everybody knows you're the first author because your name comes first on the paper.
When you talk about teaching, are you teaching like master students or
Bachelor students.
the bachelor students?
So you actually, it depends. You do both. So I think last year I was TAing for a course with master students. So you take like the practical classes, then the professor takes the theoretical classes, things like that. Now I'm currently supervising bachelor thesis students. So you help them through their thesis. They can ask you questions. You have to grade them at the end of the day.
Okay.
And in my school, they did such a flexible thing, such that even if you don't like teaching, you can do other administrative tasks. So you can decide to manage or administer or be an administrator for a lab or something, because the money is also coming through, some money are coming through the university. So you should give back to the university.
I see.
Compulsorily give back to the university, but yeah.
Makes sense. Well, the next question is in twofold.
Okay.
Before you did your masters here, what were your expectations and what was the reality? And the second part is, after your masters, what was the expectation for your PhD? And how is that different from what the reality is?
Very good question.
Let's hear it.
I was humbled. I want to say bachelor's was simple, but it was relatively simple compared to my master's.
Okay.
Based on how I'd performed during my bachelor's, I was expecting that this master's, I'm going to come here and just clear everybody kind of a situation. So that was the mindset I came in. My lord. Then I came for my master's, and I think like the first cultural shock was the fact that in one of the first classes, just to see how, actually from the introduction, after the introduction, we had like a get-together kind of thing.
Yeah.
And your lecturers were pretty much grabbing drinks with you and standing at the table with you. So like they don't have a hierarchy kind of a thing. And I would see people like openly, in my opinion, rudely oppose teachers in class. Like, you don't have to raise up your hand to particularly ask questions. So that dynamic was very, very different for me.
Am I your mate?
I was shook. That's the word. When I started, I was shook to my bones. Like, is your teacher that you're talking to like that? But yeah, so in that sense, which is also good.
Who gave you the audacity to talk to me like that?
But yeah,
this was in the masters.
This was in my masters. So it was a culture shock and also an academic shock for me. And the fact that these people are very smart. Like, is it the same kind of bachelor's you did that I did? Because it seemed like they had learned more during their bachelor's, which I had to catch up with to even like
I can
fully
imagine.
vibe with the masters, that kind of a thing. So it was interesting in that sense. Another thing that was interesting was the fact that it was an open culture. So you could ask questions and there are no stupid questions. So you can actually learn if you're ready to like set aside your pride and like just be dumb in class so you can pass. So that was it. And like for the exams, you actually have to know stuff to pass your exams, that kind of a thing.
You know, this you say about masters is quite interesting, because while I was still in Nigeria and I was considering masters, I felt like there was a lot people would have learned from their bachelors, and then I would have to start catching up in the masters. So for me, my hope was that during the masters, the lecturer would be kind enough to, know that not everybody is the same here. But now you saying that was your reality is so surprising. Not surprising. It's like, okay, so I wasn't overthinking things.
No,
this is actually how.
Because like a lot of my classmates were Europeans, or they were from the Western culture. Like I did not have any Nigerians in my class. I don't even think I had other Africans in my class. I feel like they had pretty similar experience in their bachelors. So it's like, oh.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, moving on from the...
But you can do it. That's the thing. Like, you probably have to put in like extra work at the beginning. But once you get your foot in, then you can fly. Yeah. So don't get discouraged.
Okay. As you've heard from the master herself, don't get discouraged. But leaving masters now, I believe that must have in a way set the pace for you for what you can expect in your PhD. So hopefully, you're still going to answer, but I'm thinking maybe you didn't have to experience so many culture shocks anymore.
Yeah.
Just have the floor. How was it with your PhD?
So for my PhD, first of all, because I knew it was not going to be like a course base, so I wasn't particularly expecting anything. Like, I don't think I went into my PhD with any expectations.
Okay.
It was just like, okay, let's see how this goes. And and so far it's been good. I think one thing I've learned is that a master's flies by faster than a PhD. So I feel like because you have a definite deadline, so you're going to take a course for 3 months or you're going to take a course for 6 months, it sort of motivates you to work.
Yeah.
But with a PhD, you have such long time it just feels slow sometimes. I remember my first year, I was like, all these things I'm doing now, I did it within how many months of masters? Why am I taking so much time to do it? But apparently it's also a thing. So they'll tell you that a PhD is a marathon, not a sprint. So like take the step one after the other.
Okay.
I think another thing I had to I was not expecting to have to overcome was imposter syndrome. Because then you start a PhD with super smart people, and it's also filled with AI and things like that. And
the most intelligent people in the world.
Anyways, the world is good. So like you had to become confident in what you know as well. Because it doesn't mean that the loudest person in the room is the smartest person in the room. So that was something I had to learn as well. So like they did not hire you by chance. Like they saw that you knew what you knew before you were hired. So I had to like internalize that and look in the mirror and tell myself, Feyisayo, God has brought you here, we'll carry you through it. But at the beginning it was a lot, because then I would hear like my colleagues, and it's because it's such a fast-paced field, like there's almost something new every week, and everybody's like, oh, did you hear this, did you hear that? So sometimes I felt like into my shell, like, oh, I don't deserve to be here, these people are like very smart and stuff like that. But knowing that you are the expert in your topic, even your supervisor is not the expert in your topic. Like from very early on, they were depending on me to tell them what was going on, and I'm like, if you ask me, who will I ask?
You ask me.
Literally. So I think you have to learn that early on. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions from your colleagues. Like, nobody expects you to know everything from the beginning on your own. So like, be open to make mistakes, because you would make plenty of them. But the thing is, you have to learn from your mistake, because even if you're working in the industry, nobody wants you to see you make the same mistake like 3 times or something. But I think that was like the biggest one. Like, I think because of imposter syndrome, I spent a lot of time that on problems I would have fixed if I just opened them and asked the next person.
True.
So that was mostly it. But aside from that, it's been a lot of fun. I have really cool colleagues.
Great. Thanks for sharing all of that, and for laugh if you want to laugh. Thanks for sharing all of that, and for really going in detail. I think that can help anybody out there who wants to learn from this. My next question was going to be your biggest challenges, but you already addressed some of them: imposter syndrome, opening up, actually related with not asking questions, even knowing that your lecturers depended on you. I don't know if there are still more challenges, academic-wise or culture-wise, if there's still more you'd like to add.
Culture-wise, no. I feel like I'm quite integrated into the culture itself, because I had already spent time doing a master's here. So I understood how to relate with these people. Plus, the environment I work is also very international. So not a lot of cultural problems.
You've been having it good with the extra...
I've been having it...
with the extra income, right?
You people, see Dillion money. That's okay, it's not your fault.
Hey, let's be humble.
We're humble.
I'll keep reminding you.
Okay.
So next question is, I feel like I asked you one question and you just covered the next.
Best in question and answer.
You just covered the rest. The next one was also going to be around cultural barriers, but you've mentioned that. But the second part is language barriers. Like with your masters, you mentioned there were no Africans, but I'll imagine that there were also people from other parts of the world.
Yeah, everybody spoke English, because the masters was in English itself. So language was not a big problem. So there was a course I took one time, and it was supposed to be a presentation based course. And I remember that I and my partner, which was, where was it from? Greece or something. But
when you use the word partner here in Netherlands,
I'm very good, get single. But anyways,
I was losing. I and my partner like, okay.
When did this one start now? So we had finished the presentation. Then the teacher goes, oh, the presentation was good, but I could not understand your accent and you were talking too fast. And I'm like, wait, what? You did not stop me from the very beginning to tell me that you don't understand my accent and I was talking too fast, but you still graded me anyway.
Let her finish.
Lord! But so in that sense, I feel like that was like the one time I felt like language was a problem.
Do you think that had to do more about your accent, or that had more to do with the lecturer?
I think it was both ways. I mean, I'm African unashamedly, but and I talk fast, so I also have like I can talk really fast at times. But she also probably wasn't used to hearing someone that sounded like me, or maybe because they speak English, but some of them, like, you have to talk English normal pace and stuff like that for them to understand. So I think it was just 2 ways, but it could have been avoided, because if you had told me at the beginning that, oh boy, slow down because I cannot hear you, then I would have reduced my pace or talk clearer and stuff like that. But generally, most of the teachers are also international. Like, they are Dutch, but they went, maybe they did their PhD in the Netherlands, went outside for their postdoc. So they're also exposed. So in the Netherlands, I don't think language could be a problem for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Have you considered a career in rapping?
Dillion.
I mean, think about it. You and Eminem singing like
Venom. I mean, let me finish my PhD first, then we'll talk about career options.
All right, great. I was going to ask how you have dealt with these challenges, but I think you've already addressed that. And I think even for someone like me in Netherlands, there are a lot of English-speaking people, and that really helps. Because the language is not easy. Dutch is not easy, so it actually helps that a lot of people can or are even willing to speak English.
Yeah, that's true.
Next question is, what kind of support, apart from money, have you received from your university or colleagues during your masters, during your PhD program?
During my masters, not a lot. But during your PhD, aside from money, that's the most important.
That's why I say asides.
Let's see. Usually they help you to move. So, for example, if you're moving from one, it's also monetary, but it's nice. So if you're moving from a different city, they'll pay for your mover and stuff.
Yeah.
You can get access to therapy for free.
I definitely need one.
Everybody does. Well, some people believe no, not everybody does, but yeah. So in that sense, it's just the generic things, but I feel like it's more monetary than other things.
More financial assistance.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice. I think the AI field, these are the people building ChatGPT and all these tools that are taking over our jobs.
You are who?
But in this AI field, I find it really interesting, and I think it's something I would want to consider one day, just really see what's happening in this field. What is all this data? What is all this blah, blah, blah? But for you personally, your PhD program, along with your research from your master's, what are those specific skills or knowledge that you have acquired that you consider very valuable?
For a PhD, I think you're going to acquire a lot of soft skills that people don't pay attention to.
Okay.
I feel like anybody that finishes a PhD is a project manager, because a PhD, you're an independent researcher. You have supervisors that you can talk to, but you're the one responsible for planning your entire project and planning how it's going to go, the deliverables you're going to have. Also, communication is something you have to get good at, and you get good at fast, because then you have a lot of stakeholders. So for my project, I have industry partners, I have academic partners, I have patients, because then I deal with cochlear implants as well. So like how to communicate science to everybody involved in your project. Time management as well, because we have deadline, that deliverable has to come out, that paper was republished. So generic things like that, I think, are key things you naturally learn. How to be a good presenter, how to be confident about like selling what you know, and of course you definitely get better at your own field, because at the end of the PhD you're referred to as an expert in that topic, because if you spend 4 years studying only one thing, it's expected. But I think it has a lot of soft skills that you would need, which are like very transferable, like to go to industry or things like
nice.
that.
So you were not very good at communication before?
I mean, I never really had to explain what I was doing in my master's to somebody, and I feel like the biggest presentations you have, they are to your course mates or your colleagues. So they already know what you're talking about. But this time I have to explain what AI is doing to old hearing impaired people. So like things like that you have to actually get better at. But it comes naturally if you're willing to learn and take feedback. So not every criticism is at you personally. It's just to help you get better.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing all of that. I can imagine that in the Netherlands, you're not only doing PhD, you have other interests.
I'm serving the Lord.
You have other interests, you have your personal life. So I think the fact that you already mentioned that the PhD is flexible with time and going to classes or going to office, I think that is nice. But I just want to specifically ask, like, how do you manage to balance your studies with your friendships, your personal lives, your other interests?
I think it's comes down to how you prioritize stuff. So aside from work, I have very active social life. But at the beginning, it was hard because I was stressing a lot, because I thought a lot, because it was just a lot of personal pressure. Like, oh, I should be doing this, I should have this out, XYZ. So my timing was not the best, but
personal pressure, not from the...
No, personal. Because literally, I would talk to myself, and everybody's like, oh, you're doing great. I'm like, well, are you seeing something that I'm not seeing?
Your blood is...
My blood is hot. But anyways, yeah, so it was a lot of personal pressure. So I think I missed out a lot on friendship. I would cancel because I had to work on weekends. And nobody was... in this place, nobody's expecting you to work on weekend. Close that laptop and get out. But I was doing it because I felt like I should be doing it. But now I think
your
I have...
your manager can see you working on weekend and be like, sorry, what are you doing here?
Exactly. Should we have a conversation?
Get out. Do you need therapy?
Are you going through midlife crisis? But yeah, so now I do a lot of things with my friends. So like hanging out, traveling, and are we good?
Yeah, I was just
okay.
ensuring the audio is still working.
Yeah, so hangouts, travel, but that's the thing. If you want to have this good flexibility, you also have to be disciplined with yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're going to work 9 to 4, 9 to 5, actually work 9 to 5, and at 5 close that laptop and peace out. So that's really helped a lot. And you definitely need a good social support doing a PhD because it's like... So, and it really affects your mental health. Watching other people, especially when you have colleagues and close friends in the industry. It's a lot. So you need like a good support system. So know when to talk to your friends about what you're going through with work and stuff. Even if just to rant to them about what work looks like at the moment. So you definitely need to develop that early. And yeah, you want to do other stuff apart from your PhD. So I would go for comedy shows. What other fun things do I do? I used to kickbox as well. So like just pick up random hobbies basically to keep me
sane.
Exactly. So yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks for sharing that. The next question is, in your PhD program so far, is there anything you'd have done different at the beginning? But I think you already mentioned that being open.
I would ask questions
just
fast,
asking questions straightforward, all of that. You enjoy your program so far, I assume.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, you definitely don't want to share it publicly in case your supervisor watches. They're like, Faye, I watched this video.
Shout out to my supervisors.
Faye, I watched this video. You said something you have never told me. But I think you've already answered that question on how you approach a PhD program like this.
Yeah.
So the last question, before we go eat, I'm very hungry, is... for anybody who is considering pursuing a PhD in Netherlands, whether they did their masters here or they did it somewhere else, like try to be as general as you can, because you did AI and not everybody may be considering AI, but as general as you can possibly do it, or as general as you can possibly be. Is there any advice, tips that you want to give somebody?
Yeah, sure. So general advices would be, first of all, establish good connections during your masters, because academia is quite a networking field as well. So if you do your thesis with your supervisors, let them know, because when I was doing my masters, I told my supervisors I want to do a PhD, because even if they don't have funding to get you in, they probably know colleagues that do. And even during a PhD, I had to get like reference letter from my masters thesis coordinators and things like that. So be open about it, like especially if you already realize that PhD is not an afterthought that you actually want to do. So already take steps. Go for conferences even during your masters, because you can go for free. Some people would offer students to come for free. So go there, talk to people, show interest in their work, so they know that okay, if I get funding, they would just text you that, hey, I already have. Because I actually know a colleague that got a PhD like that. She actually just sent an email to somebody she wanted to work with, and the person at the time told them that, oh, I don't have funding. But when they had funding, they sent her an email. So be open, shout it to the world, and let them know that you want a PhD. Another thing to do is, if you're doing a research masters, already try to get publications during your masters. So like do an internship in a lab or something. Even if it's the industry, do it within the R&D department, because those things help to boost your application, because a lot of people are also applying for the positions you want. So you want to stand out with the fact that you have some research experience already from your masters. Another thing is to keep an open mind. Like with applying for every other job, you're going to get a lot of rejection, and it's not that because you're not good, but because it's part of the process. Exactly. And one final thing, please don't do a PhD if you don't want to, because I feel like it takes a lot from you. It's a lot of investment from your time. Exactly. You could be in the industry also advancing your careers for 4 years. So if you're not sure that you need it, like like that's the thing. Like it's not like in previous days where the higher number of degrees you are guarantees XYZ. It's not like that at all. You could do a bachelor's and be earning a lot of money without even doing a master's, right? Yeah. So know your whys before applying for the PhD, because even when things get tough during this process, like your whys are what keeps you going and whatnot. So don't let anybody don't let anybody pressure you into coming for a PhD. Your father will not use the degree. You're the one that will come for 4 years to come and do the thing. So really think about it, right? And if you are a Christian, pray about it as well. So yeah.
If you need to know the whys before you do the Z's. I just wanted to.
Oh God.
I was thinking about it. I was like, I need to say this out. Well, really nice. I think it's very helpful. I mean, personally. Masters and PhD is afterthought. Wow. Masters alone is afterthought.
I mean, masters can be an afterthought.
Then PhD is another afterthought. But it depends. Maybe if I go into the masters, I would say
you might like it. Exactly, that's the
PhD,
thing. Because
like you mentioned.
Nigeria does not give us. Oh, okay. Don't let me speak for every school, but at least I went to a good enough school to say that you don't do a lot of research work. I mean, even for the bachelor's thesis you do, like how much research is involved.
I don't want to talk about my bachelor's.
It's involved in it. So you could get into your masters and realize that, and that's another thing. Like for me, if I had to do courses for my PhD, I don't think I would have followed through with the PhD. And like I was just done with the exams and school and whatnot. So really, like look at the options and see why. There are both perks and cons to even a PhD. So do your research before, basically.
Well, I want to say I've also learned a lot. I feel like I've talked about PhD with you before, but I'm like, okay, I didn't know this. Okay. So thanks for sharing all of this, down from your personal experiences, your challenges, even sharing a bit of the masters. I was initially thinking this was going to be mostly PhD, but it's nice that I could also share some things about masters here. Of course, everything that she says, I'm going to leave them in the video description. Sorry, not everything. It's not like a transcription. It's going to be like the links, some of the text, some of the university, some of the spellings, even the Dutch spellings. So I'm going to leave all of that in the video description so you can check it out. Just final thing, would you be open to people reaching out to you for these questions?
Yeah, you can just shoot me a question if you have, or if they send it to you, you can send it to me.
If they send it to me, I can send it to you. I have access to you, but do you want like a public access?
Yeah, that's fine. My Instagram is public.
So. Okay, so you can. I'm going to write it on the screen, but you can also say what your Instagram is.
Celebrity stars.
Sorry. Okay.
So my Instagram name is Liz, then Feyisayo.
Hopefully it doesn't change after this video.
But please, be very specific in your questions as well. So, because that helps.
Hi.
Hi.
Then you have to reply.
Yeah, I'm sorry. On Instagram, like my direct, what's it called?
I don't know what you want to say.
I don't see, the English has run away. But yeah, if you're sending me a message on Instagram, especially if I do not know you, kindly say hi, and XYZ is the question I want to send. If you tell me hi, I would not reply back, because
you have heard from the horses. Wait, what is a female horse?
Don't cast us on this thing.
Okay, you have heard from the horse's mouth. But I would leave her contact in the video description. You can shoot your questions, but I hope all of this has been helpful. You can ask whatever extra questions you have in the video comments, and I would reach out to her, get the answer, and paste right there. But thanks again for doing this.
Do I get to say, don't forget to like this video?
Oh, please, say it for me.
So please don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button so you can get notification for the new upcoming. We have a lot of content coming up, so do hit the subscribe button and leave a comment as well. Yes, and that's it.
Well, thanks for doing that for me. Thanks for joining. Leave your questions. Also, please share this video with others, whoever you believe this will be beneficial to. Please share. Enough. I think we can end this video already. Are you hungry?
Very.
All right. Peace.
Ciao.
And action.
You actually see action.
So, why are you laughing?
You have to give a serious face.
Oh my god, my Crocs is going in. Let me remove the Crocs, so it's just the socks. Yeah. Because the socks looks nice. Alrighty.
Now you don't laugh. I stopped. See, you know how hard it is not to laugh and be serious. Come on.
No, I've kept all the laughs, so now I'm putting the laugh. Okay, now we're serious. Hi, everyone. And the reason why we're having...
Cast.
Do you want to
Introduce myself?
Introduce yourself,
so,
yes.
What am I saying exactly? My name?
Can you talk a bit loud
Oh,
so the
sorry.
microphone captures you?
What am I saying? Forgot to restart. Scam.
Batch 3, action.
Hey, Lord.
Great. So we have looked. My hand should be here so I can easily view my phone.